This is our home, and this is where we live in Seattle, Washington. That's me, Eric, my wife, Roshri, and these are our kids. We got tired of the usual corporate America, long hours, living for the weekends and living for retirement. We decided to make a change. We moved out the Pacific Northwest. We cut our expenses, we cut our income, and we decided we were going to focus on what matters most. Life, experiences, spending time with our kids, spending time with our friends and family, making the most of every single day, and truly living life to its fullest. So come join us as we explore this world. It's a lot to see and a lot to do. Let's get going.
Riders, start your engine! Get out, son. Speedway on the third Nascar Racing Series truck race ever at this facility, and it belongs to Kyle Morrison.
Race their truck, undercars.com, Rick Martin, Rick Hendrick for also letting me run. So, been a good couple weeks so we can roll.
How did you guys put this together and come up with the second place?
No, we're not talking about that.
That's before Tommy's time.
Let me make sure also that we keep talking about getting caught making shine. You guys say you've never been caught except for Dean. Let's talk a little bit about Junior. I mean, I know this story's probably been told, but I know you folks may not have heard it. But I've always been told, Junior told me this, he said, the thing is, Jeff, they didn't catch me. And he said, they didn't catch me at the steel. That's what you got to do. Back in the day, they had to grab me, all right? So Junior said, I'm up here. I was stirring the fire for my dad, for my dad and then my brother LP. He said, they snuck up on me. And he said, I was stirring it with a shovel, and on the corner of my eye, I thought I saw something. He said, I knew it was either another moonshiner getting ready to jump our claim, or it was a revenue. He said, so I spun around there, and I hit that guy upside the head with the shovel and took off running. And he said, I cleared a barbed wire fence down through the woods and got away from it. And they came to me and they arrested me for assault on a federal officer. And that's what sent him to Chillicothe prison. And we used to drive by there on the way to Michigan, and he'd tell me, boy, that's one place I don't want to ever hell go back to. And I didn't like it up there. But
His wife's sister.
I wish he was that Dean's wife.
That was a little bit awkward.
He got let go though, right?
No, he didn't get let go. But his sister-in-law, she kept dating me.
No kidding.
I don't speak very
That's a
much
hell of a
English.
story.
Dean, is that true or not?
Well, he's pretty close. I heard a lot of things said about that. I didn't agree with it, but I heard that about the time I got busted.
Deb, you got
That's a
something
pretty good
to say?
sister-in-law, and I still always worry about that.
I never arrested a whole family before, so I didn't know what to do with the kids. His wife, Dale's girlfriend, came and took the kids home with her, and I took them to jail.
Hell, I don't know if I like Tommy or not.
How many gallons of moonshine would you make a year?
How many gallons of moonshine did you make in a year? What's the average?
It's according. If you run the silver, less. If you run the steamer, made a big difference. You got an old 500-gallon silver, we run 114 to 15 gallons a day.
365 days a year.
No, we wasn't that energetic. Blue lights and stuff that they got now, they had red lights. And he looked at me and he said, well, Jim, they run me so hard today that red light burned a blister on the back of my neck.
And they're going to be auctioning them off for the children's charity. So y'all stick around and do that. And guys, we really appreciate your time. While we're getting off stage,
Thank you guys. Appreciate it a lot.
we got Skinner.
He won the inaugural Pro when we went to Indianapolis for the Brickyard 400. Rick Mass, rockin' Rick. And promoter extraordinaire. If it has been done uniquely at a racetrack, this man was behind it. H.A. Humpy Wheeler. Y'all be sure to get a picture of this. These are some legends here. I didn't even count all the wins that we have, the history in NASCAR, 75 years. But I'm going to start with Richard. Richard, let's start with North Wilkesboro. Do you remember the first race you came to here with your dad or as a racer?
I think 1950, it was all dirt. And we came up here and looking around with the track now, with it improved everything. The only thing I see that's original is the scoreboard up in number 3 corner. That's the same scoreboard. Well, we didn't have radios and stuff at that time, so I could keep up with where I was at and who was chasing me. So it worked out good.
I back off. And about that time, somebody runs in the back of me as hard as they possibly could. And I said, what the heck? So when the race over, he'd already left. I went and found Dale. I said, Dale, what the hell did Richard say anyway? He said, I don't know, DW, but that's the best we got off turn 4 all day long.
RC, from Winston-Salem, right down the road, and you grew up racing at Bowman Gray Stadium. When was the first time, your first memory of North Wilkesboro Speedway? Was it as a competitor, or did you come as a race fan like we all started?
Well, originally I came as a race fan. I wasn't but a little kid, and it was dirt then. I don't know what year it was, but it was way back when, Richard. Stood out there and watched the race, and but since that, coming back, I drove a few races up here and had a good time. But the memories, I can't remember where I laid my sunglasses down a while ago, but I remember what happened in the 80s here. Larry McReynolds come up, he was a crew chief, and he was going to say, hey, take it easy, we'll race at the end. By that time, Chocolate had him wrapped around his head. Somebody had him around the waist and carried him back down to his pit. So, I can remember that.
Rusty, you grew up short track racing, but there's nowhere like North Wilkesboro. What were your first impressions when you went out on the track? Did you realize it was uphill and downhill? We didn't have iRacing back then.
Well, I grew up in the short tracks back in Missouri and the Midwest and all that. And I was able to win a lot of races back there, what they called the ASA cars. It was Alan Quickie, Mark Martin, guys like that. We were all doing that. And I kept telling myself, I'm ever going to do good here in NASCAR. It's probably going to be the short track because that's where I cut my teeth. So I came up here to Wilkesboro and I said, why? Man, this place is slick. Boy, it's really slimy track. And I said, I can't believe they built a racetrack where you go downhill to front straightaway and uphill to back straightaway. But it turned out to be a track that I really did like. It was a really good track for me. But I want to go back to 1989, driving a Kodiak Pontiac. That was probably one of the wildest races I ever had. Because I led the race most of the day. And I came off a turn 4 with the white flag waving, come down the straightaway, and Jeff Bodine's right behind me. We get into turn 1, he pops me in the back, sends me up the racetrack, he takes the lead, we drag race all the way down the back straightaway, I catch him into turn 3, I pop him in the back again, I take the lead, I win the race. So I think the story's over there, but here's the good part. So I come down pit road, I drop the window net down, and I'm waving at the fans like, hey man, I won this race, I'm really excited. And all of a sudden I look off to the left and here comes this lady. She's jumped over the pit wall, she flies inside my car and she's just wailing on my helmet. And I said, who the hell was that? And they said, that's Bodine's crew chief's wife. So that was a pretty good story, but I always loved this place. I had all good runs here. It had some bad ones, but I had a lot of good ones too.
So we come to Wilkesboro, I guess it was 96, wasn't it?
I think it was.
Yeah, so I get the pole. We're really good shape. All of a sudden I look in the mirror and here's Harry. And he's dive bombing the corner. And I'm like, oh God, I know what's coming. He plowed in the back of that 3 truck and spun me out. I hit the wall. They said he got on radio and said, well, the throttle hung. He said, oddly enough, when I hit him, it come unstuck.
Rick Mass, you had some good runs here. More in the Cup car than I think you ran 3 or 4 Busch races here as well. What was it about this track that you liked?
Well, to start with, folks, about 70% of what you're hearing is truth. Okay, just so y'all know that.
You giving them the benefit of the doubt. I was going to go with 50.
This group, yeah, I know this group very well. Now, let me tell you a story about Wilkesboro. I'd run a couple maybe Busch races here, but my first Cup race here, if we go back a little bit, 1990, I was a fledgling Busch Grand National driver, just worked and strived and my whole life to try to be a Cup driver. And at Dover in the fall of 90, I signed a deal with U.S. Tobacco, i.e. the brand Skoal, and Richard Jackson to drive the next year in 91. So we left Dover, the next week was Wilkesboro. Travis Carter called me and wanted me to finish running the season in his car. He had some deal with one of his drivers, I don't know. Anyhow, I agreed to do it. So we come to Wilkesboro, the race gets going, and we're running pretty good. And somehow or another, me and somebody gets tangled up. I think it may have been Rick Wilson, and I'm not going to say whether it was my fault or whether it wasn't my fault. I'm not going to say that. But we start wrecking in the middle 3 and 4, and I look, and here's Harry in the Skoal car. He's spinning, wrecking with us. And we finally get stopped on the front straightaway, and I look over, and there's the number 1 Skoal car that I'm going to drive next year. There it is piled up on the inside wall, and I'm sitting there thinking, I just signed a contract with Skoal. It's my whole life in front of me, and I'm going to get my ass fired right here. They're going to fire me because I just took out both Skoal cars, right? So we go home, and I'm worried. I mean, honestly, it bothered me that I might get fired over this deal, you know? So next morning, Johnny Hayes calls. Johnny Hayes, everybody here knows Crazy Johnny. Johnny calls me. He's the vice president of motorsports for UST, i.e. Skoal. And he's basically the boss, and he's who hires and fires everybody. He said, Rick, it's Johnny Hayes. Hey, Johnny, you feeling okay from that wreck yesterday? I said, yeah. He said, well, what happened? Now, remember, folks, in those days, the television, it was the beginnings of what we have now. In those days, we didn't have 100 replays and 40 angles. to analyze every inch of every incident that happened. So anyhow, he says, what happened? I said, did you not see the wreck? He said, well, I saw y'all coming down the front straightaway all wadded up. And I said, I'm going to tell you something, Johnny. I was just out there biding my time, taking it easy. I was running real good. And that day, I got that damn Rick Wilson wrecked me, and he wrecked all of us, cooked all of us out. And I feel sorry for Sco. I said, there wasn't anything I could do about it. You need to call Rick Wilson. So, but anyhow, the story worked, man. He didn't fire me.
And 40 years later, the line continues.
Crowd put together. Add them up.
It makes a difference how much you win a championship by. It could be 1 point or 12 points, can it?